We're really going to deep dive into some phenomenal content. One thing that you said was life coach. And it's so funny, right? Because I get that a lot, but it's more of actually a life and business strategist, more of a brand consultant, but we'll get into that as well, right? So when people ask me my story, I just tell them that I'm just a kid from Harlem who God chose to show his favor and mercy through. I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s in Harlem, New York. And you don't have to be a historian to really know what took place during that time. It was one of the many infamous pandemics that we have suffered in America and as a people in particular. I made a lot of bad decisions during that time without the right leadership, without the right examples, without the right peers, without the right peer group, without the right coaches, without the right structure, right? So I made the wrong decisions and I suffered some of the consequences that come with making the wrong decisions. As many of the people that share my ecology, age, and background, many of them are. But there came a time when, luckily, I fell in love, right? I fell in love with the young lady, and I was going to do the same hard-headed stuff again because, old habits are hard to break. Mm-hmm. And so is the ecology. The lessons that you learn from where you come from are kind of hard to break. But when I fell in love, I really had to ask myself, was I going to write the same book again that I had written many times? And so I wanted to try something different and give her as well as my children an opportunity at having a responsible, well-rounded father, husband, man. And I always said that I believed, but I never gave the chance, right? So I say I believe, but I'm still sticking to what I know best. At this point, I realized that I kept running into the brick wall over and over again. So I finally got out of the driver's seat, sat in the passenger seat and released and submitted. I said, I don't know everything, but I'm willing to try whatever I'm shown. And I was shown school. So I actually had to go back and start something or finish something that I had started a long time ago. And I got back into school. Funny thing is, I'm still there now. I'm just not a beginner. Now I've got 2 master's degrees and I'm currently in 2 doctorates at the PhD stage. So that's a little bit of my background, where I come from and how I got here. Thank you so much for asking me that.
So it ties into, I've been doing this 18 years and it started with, we talk about the economics and race and all these different dynamics and influences on our life. And I started the organization because I had a tough time. I didn't have a good peer group. I made bad choices too. No one forced me to do anabolic steroids or to take a shortcut to be a better athlete, which I thought was a better athlete. But I didn't have a good core group. They say, show me your friends, I'll show you my future.
That's right.
It's very true. Being 49 now, looking back and thinking, if I just had a few little nuggets of information, and that's what these are about. These podcasts are just to give, if you could take a little nugget with you, and we'll get into some really good nuggets because we're both seasoned, experienced, and had education, which is failures. Failures educate you greatly, and they're very expensive. But, my organization, I've seen kids in inner city and they say, well, they're better athletes because they don't have PlayStation. They don't have this. No, they're trying to get out of a situation. Yeah. They're trying to get out of it. And they're some of the nicest kids I ever met. They didn't pick their family. They didn't pick the situation. They didn't pick, where they're at. But they know if I do this, I'm going to get out. And I've seen my friends do it. And so there is a beautiful thing over 18 years that I've seen. And that's some of my most beloved projects is working in those, because you see a life change. Some kids are just gifted, right? You check every box. They're 6'7", 300 pounds. They're not great in high school, but you can't teach size. But then you get a young man that's in the inner city, 5'9", 170 pounds. You can't check every box, but they just have a big heart and a passion to get out of the situation, to have a better life. And that's an amazing thing to see. And that's what the foundation of these conversations is to educate. And I know you've got, at this point, a great audience, and you've moved forward a lot, obviously multiple degrees, which is amazing. You probably look back, you never think you'd be sitting here right now, I'm sure.
Ooh, never. It's actually a dream that I never had come true.
So what would your advice be to any young, and I'm not talking about just, troubled youth, and trouble could be economic, it could be behavioral. There's so many different things that trouble us, even you and I today. We have troubles, we face different things. But what would be your advice to a young man or woman that maybe they think the cards stacked against them?
Accept your hand. Accept your hand, right? Number one, accept your hand, and then know the next steps. What's the next steps after knowing your hand, after realizing you have your hand? Okay, so you accept that. This is my hand. You play it to your best ability. You play it to your best ability. I'm not going to give you something cliche that just says figure it out.
Right.
The way you play your hand to the best ability is that you watch seasoned veterans. You go to someone who's been there, done that. You go to people that you look up to and you figure out how to get in contact with them. Coaching is one of the most powerful forces on the planet right now. And before I had the money, pay very close attention, before I had the money and before I had the access, I had a phone. And because I had Google and YouTube, I didn't use it to play games. I used it to go to YouTube and follow and learn from the people that I'm friends with now. Mm-hmm. That's what I did. And I climbed up the ladder with knowledge that was free. Educationally, I went to college. Non-formally, I went to school on YouTube, and I followed and I listened and I learned from and I implemented the techniques, the tactics, and the trademarks from some of the very same people that are in my phone now.
College sports is a big business, a multi-billion-dollar business. So how do high school athletes get noticed by college coaches? At Athletic Scholarship Corporation, we provide nationwide recruiting services and get scholarship offers for our clients.